and go.
Hey guys, we're back in the kitchen again, and we are cooking up something totally delicious and nutritious and low carb and keto and all of that stuff. Today we are making my Indian Crack Slaw. Why is it called Crack Slaw? I have absolutely no idea, but I see it on the internet, so I'm going to just call mine Indian Crack Slaw, and it's going to be delicious. So, as always, if you haven't, subscribe down below, because, you know, there's awesomeness going on here, and it's going to be totally fun, and I feel like you should join. So, hit that subscribe button down below so you always know when I'm posting videos here in the kitchen, or we're just chatting, whatever. Okay, so, on to Indian Crack Slaw. So, over here, as with any slaw, we have cabbage. I have a green cabbage here. This is a green Savoy cabbage. It's a little bit fancier than your regular green cabbage. But if you just have green cabbage, just use green cabbage. No big deal. So we're just going to shred this. Start by shredding our cabbage here. I want to make sure that I get as thin shreds as possible on this, just so that it cooks up faster and it's prettier to look at. And I am just going to start shredding away. We're going to use the whole cabbage. You can use more or less depending on your personal taste and how much carbs you have for the day. Although this is low carb, it is still kind of carb heavy for a meat and vegetable dish. So, over there. And we're just going to work through all 3 sides. Just take out that bitter core and start working our way down.
Look at those shredding skills.
Right, so second half of this. And same thing with the other half.
Why are you measuring it?
I'm measuring it because I would like to keep my macros for my meals pretty close to accurate as possible. If you're doing something like lazy keto, then you don't have to, because this is definitely a low carb meal. But just because I like to monitor my macros for the day, I'm going to just weigh it so I can do the macros for this dish accurately for anyone who's interested. I'll put that down below for anyone who wants specific macros. It'll be down there for you. Otherwise, feel free to not measure. I'm weighing it just so that I know and I can calculate it properly. Okay, so now that the cabbage has been shredded up, I'm just going to start heating up my lovely pan here to get ready to fry this cabbage. So I've got my pan on medium heat. Always with the cat. Always. Okay. And to the pan, I'm just going to add 3 tablespoons of butter and let that start working itself out. And there. I have my tongs. All right, okay. Yay! It's starting to melt.
This pan is well loved.
It is well loved. We totally got this as a gift from a friend who was moving away to LA. So thank you, Crystal, for your lovely pot. We are using it. It's going to be our new favorite, I think. Good for making chilies and such and such and such. Okay?
Chili. That's good.
Chili, yeah. Chili. Oh my gosh, the cat. Anyway.
Keto chili. That's our next project.
Yeah, it's just too hot for chili.
True.
So I'm gonna wait on that one for fall. Cat is just driving me
Keto
insane.
Super Bowl chili. There you go.
When's Super Bowl? In the winter or?
February.
Yes, the winter. Okay. So anyway, the butter has started to melt. I'm gonna turn it up a little bit more.
We have cat interference.
Yeah, she's a little aggressive.
Can I just say hello? Just say hello real quick. Okay. All right. Bye.
Okay. So to the butter that started to melt, I'm just going to add all of the cabbage in to technically fry the cabbage. We're really just wilting it. It's no big thing, but you know, we get some additional fats by using butter. But if you want to use like coconut oil, Feel free to use coconut oil if you prefer to do that, especially if you are interested in making this vegetarian or vegan. Coconut oil or vegan butter is also good to use in this step. Because I made it for you, Shaw, yesterday, vegan, and it turned out alright. So, I'm assuming that doing it with meat this time is going to be just as good. So I'm just going to leave that alone for a second, throw on the lid. I need some space on my cutting board, and we're going to get ready for the next step of this process. So over here, I've got a small shallot, or you can use white or yellow onions if you prefer. We just happen to have this in the fridge, so I'm going to use it. And I'm just going to chop through this one as well. Off the stupid skin.
Look at those knife skills.
Now, I don't know if this, I need to sharpen this knife. Oh, it just flew away. Sharpen this knife, but it's not really cutting the way I would like it to. But for the purpose of this, it's fine. Get one chopped shallot or a quarter of an onion. You're getting about the same carbs with a quarter of a white or yellow onion as one small shallot. So I'm just going to chop up here.
I actually like the flavor of shallots more than I do onions.
Well, I chop it up really small and put it in super early to the pot, so by the time it gets to my mouth, I don't really notice it anymore. You know, Dad didn't like onions, so I'm not used to seeing them in food, although I do know you like your onions pretty good. So I'm just going to give the cabbage a stir. Make sure it's not sticking or burning. And continue to let it go. And cover it again. I want it to reduce a little bit more. Go over there, go over there. And then we're going to move on to our seasoning sauce for our slaw. Now it is, I am calling it an Indian Crack Slaw because I'm going to do some Indian flavors with this, but I'm going to keep it familiar to what is available to me readily across the street at the grocery store. So I've got here a jar of West Indian curry paste. This is just a personal preference of mine. Where we're from, in the Caribbean and Grenada, Indian flavors are very familiar to us, but they're a little bit different spiciness, and they're not as sweet sometimes as you would get in like an Indian restaurant. But it still tastes good. So if you don't have this in your nearby store, you want to do like a red curry or a green curry or, you know, Japanese curry, feel free to do it. But this is what I'm using. I'm using this West Indian. As soon as I can get it out the jar, actually, I would use it. Okay, it's not working for me. A fork. So I'm going to use about 2 tablespoons of this West Indian curry paste. And to that, I'm going to add, just because I don't know if you guys have realized, I don't use things straight out of the package just the way that they are. I like to add something a little extra. So I'm using Madras curry. Madras curry has more of that cinnamony taste to it. So I'm going to add this to it. I'm just going to pour like a teaspoon in here. And to that also, another addition to all of that going on, I'm going to add some garam masala. This is the one that I had I got across the street because I didn't have time to grind my own. So I'm just going to add about a teaspoon of that as well. And stir it up. And this is going to be our seasoning paste for our slaw. Super simple. And that's about it.
Let's take a look.
It doesn't look very pretty, but it's going to be tasty and it smells delicious already. So back to our cabbage. Looking pretty good here. It's reduced a whole lot and it's a pretty lovely green now.
Tis, it is.
So we're just going to take that out of the pot. And so we can start working on our meats.
How long you think it was in there for? Like
I mean,
7 minutes?
It really depends on your flame and how much cabbage you have. You just want it to wilt significantly because we're not really going to cook this again. Once we add it back to the pot, the pot's pretty much done at that point. So you want your cabbage to be cooked, is what I would say. But 3 to 5 minutes. It's a good estimate on that.
I'm gonna rolling.
Okay, so we have our cabbage on the side. Now we're going to start on the meat. Now I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil, not even a tablespoon at the bottom, just so I can get my onions and ginger going. So I'm just going to add my onion here. And then for me, it's just a aesthetic thing and a preference. I'm going to microplane my ginger into the pot. If you want to slice it, go ahead and slice it. I just don't want to run any risk of biting into a hunk of ginger. But I'm adding about 2 inches of ginger to the pot.
And that's like probably like 2 tablespoons or so.
Sure.
Yeah, that's our guess.
Yeah. I mean, that sounds reasonable. Reasonable. Try not to take a finger. And I need a wooden spoon for this part. No home is complete without a wooden spoon. Let's get that off. So we have that frying up, and this is really, I like this part of the recipe because this is where you really start to get those Indian smells. No garlic is needed at this point, but you can really start to smell like that Mumbai kitchen starting to work out. So I'm just going to add about half of my curry paste here. And now we got it going. I'm going to fry it a little bit. And
oh yeah.
to that part.
Smells good.
Yeah, this is that Indian food. It's smelling good here. Don't want it to burn. But I'm going to add 1 pound of ground grass-fed lamb to the pot here. If you wanted to, if lamb is out of your budget or you don't like lamb, feel free to use pork and then beef if you wanted to.
Probably chicken too, right?
You could use chicken, but for the purposes of low carb, high fat, chicken is not necessarily the best meat to use just because of the ratios, but feel free to use chicken or turkey if you just want to do something low carb, not necessarily high fat. Now, if you're doing this vegetarian or vegan, you would add more oil or butter to your onions and ginger, because if you're using something like tofu or seitan, you're not going to get that fat there and your pot will burn. So you want to add butter instead of the oil at the beginning.
Yeah, the vegan butter, right?
Yeah, vegan butter, you can use Melt or Earth Balance. They both offer a vegan butter, and they do one that is soy-free also, if you are conscious about soy. So to this, I'm just going to add a little bit of water to it because I don't want the meat to clump up in the pan. I'd rather have it a loose meat. So I'm just going to let that go for a second and continue to break up my ground meat in here.
Alright, I'm gonna cook.
Cook. Okay, so I've added the water to keep the meat loose so it's not huge clumps, and I've just added the rest of the seasoning that we mixed up before so that can cook with it as well. This seasoning, as with most curry paste and like harissa, also does need to be cooked. You can't just drop it on raw and just go and eat. You really need to cook it so it's not jarring to your senses once you eat it. But once
we also added some salt too.
Yeah. Well, salt's a taste.
Yeah.
You can't live without salt. I mean, no one in this household can live without salt.
That is correct.
Right. We're salt eaters here. I just added some pink Himalayan sea salt
in our lovely jar.
Yes, our very special handcrafted plastic jar.
Right.
Deliciousness here. So I'm just gonna let that hang out for a second. I want the water to evaporate before I add in the cabbage because it is a slaw and not a soup.
Right. We don't want it to be watery.
Yeah, we don't want watery and soupy. So I'm just going to leave it with the top off so the water can evaporate, and then we'll come back and finish this off. We're almost done.
What heat do you have it on? High, medium?
I have it on medium with the top off. You can put it on high if you just want it to cook faster, but I want to make sure that meat is cooked.
We do want that too.
Don't want to, I'm not in a rush. Just cook so you won't be raw, because I don't want to die.
We'll be back.
Okay, so most of the water is gone. The liquid that you're seeing here is actually oil. If I push it, it's not water there. So we got most of the water out. And now we're going to add white wine vinegar. Now if you don't have white wine vinegar, it's fine. Use apple cider vinegar. I just would not use white distilled vinegar because I feel like that'd be a little bit jarring. But because we've used so much heavy flavors here, and it is technically a slaw, we're going to add some vinegar to it. So I'm going to add about 1.5 teaspoons, maybe, if we're lucky. Yes.
That's pretty accurate.
That was 1.5 teaspoons. And stand back once you've added it because that vinegar is really going to start to flour with the heat. I'm going to let that hang out for a second while I get my cabbage back in place, and we're just going to add our cabbage back into the pot.
You know it smells good. The dog is here now.
Right. The dog is always in time for the food. Now, like I said before, once we add our cabbage back in, the dish is pretty much done. Now I would just taste for salt and pepper if you wanted to add some, but I feel like we're going to be good, and you can always add more if you want to. Oh, there's a big old piece of cabbage in there. Hide it. Fine. Whoops. Okay.
And just another note, with cooking curry, maybe not always a good idea to wear a white shirt.
It's alright. Curry stains is just a part of being West Indian. Everything's got curry stains, and we're good.
So wear your curry stains with pride then.
Right. Curry stains with pride.
But if you're new to curry, maybe wear a darker colored shirt.
Or if you're a little, accident prone when you're cooking, you might want to go with a darker color shirt. Whatever. This is cooking. It's supposed to be fun and relaxed. So our slaw is done.
Yes, let's take a look. That
Slaw
looks
is
amazing.
done. And this, I'm planning for it to make about 4 servings. So just so you can see it here. Yeah, that's about it. Right, yeah, that's 4 servings. This is our crack curry. Now this can be served topped with sour cream, sour cream or mayonnaise, some cilantro. I hate cilantro, so I'm not going to put it on my food. But cilantro with sour cream or mayo, and with a little wedge of lime. And that's basically it. Your keto crack slaw. Your Indian crack slaw. That's keto and low carb friendly. Yay! So that's it for today. I hope you try this recipe out because it looks and smells delicious, and I'm sure you and your family will enjoy it as well. Thanks so much. Until next time, guys. Bye.
Toodles.